As it turns out, there was a third person involved in Dorit Kemsley and Paul P.K. Kemsley's separation, but not in the way you might think. While meeting Bozoma Boz St. John for lunch during Season 14, Episode 9 of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Dorit revealed that PK's sponsor had been the person who suggested she and her estranged husband split. The day PK and I decided to separate was him, his sponsor, and myself in our backyard, and his sponsor was doing the talking, Dorit shared in a confessional. His sponsor's the one who suggested that we take some time apart and separate. I was so taken aback, I didn't ask whether this was PK's idea or whether the sponsor actually thought it was a good idea and PK was just going along with it. I still don't know. Dorit explained more in her conversation with Boz. You know, I've always been very protective of PK, she said. When things were not good between us, I never wanted my parents to think badly of him. And that was for a good chunk of time. When Boz mentioned how disheartening the whole situation must be, especially after spending years defending someone, Dorit admitted the moment caught her so off guard, she couldn't help but think, who the have I been married to? Dorit Kemsley unpacks the day she and PK separated. During the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills after show, Dorit shared more about that fateful day, saying she felt totally blindsided. Why did his sponsor need to say it? Asked Boz, to which Dorit replied, well, he sort of said it like, I think the best thing for you guys is to take some time apart. That didn't sit well with Boz. Girl, with all due respect, the sponsor is supposed to advise him on his sobriety, okay? Now you enter our sacred marriage, and you want to tell me what we should do? Oh, absolutely not, she said. Dorit clarified that the sponsor was involved because PK was new to his sobriety, and they've been working together every day. I was really grateful because he really helped PK, she added, but that doesn't mean she doesn't have a problem with how things went down in this conversation. Dorit Kemsley reveals she and PK had previously discussed separating. Dorit added that, to be fair, this wasn't actually the first time the word separation had been brought up with PK. It was more like the 700th, but it was thrown around so easily and so quickly that it lost its strength. So when it did become serious, it felt especially strange. It's a huge decision. There are children involved. It would have been nice to have been included in the decision, she said. When did Dorit and PK Kemsley separate? Dorit and PK announced their split in May 2024 with an Instagram statement. We as a couple have been subject to a lot of speculation about our marriage. We have had our struggles over the last few years and continue to work through them as two people who love each other and shared two amazing children together, the since-deleted post read. To safeguard our deep friendship and maintain a harmonious environment for our children, we have made the mutual and difficult decision to take some time apart and reevaluate our relationship while we prioritize our children. We appreciate your love and support while we continue to do the work necessary throughout this journey. With love, Dorit and PK. The bombshell of separation. Dorit's shocking revelation. The glamorous world of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills often presents its stars in a spotlight filled with lavish dinners, sparkly events, and impeccable fashion. Yet behind the glitzy facade, the women of Beverly Hills sometimes reveal that beneath the diamonds and couture, their lives are anything but picture-perfect. One of the most shocking revelations in the series came from Dorit Kemsley in Season 14, Episode 9, when she dropped a bombshell about her separation from her husband, Paul P.K. Kemsley. The revelation sent shockwaves through the Beverly Hills social circle, but it also provided a raw, vulnerable glimpse into a relationship that had once appeared to be the epitome of success. The unseen player, PK's sponsor. While many viewers might expect a storyline centered around infidelity, money, or fame, Dorit's confession about her separation was anything but typical. During the lunch with her close friend, Bozoma Boz St. John, Dorit revealed a shocking detail. It wasn't just her and PK who decided to separate. There was a third party involved, and not in the way you might think. It turns out it was PK's sponsor, a figure in PK's sobriety journey, who was the one to suggest the idea of a separation. Dorit, speaking candidly in a confessional, explained that on the day she and PK decided to separate, the conversation took place in their backyard. It was him, his sponsor, and myself, Dorit recalled. His sponsor was the one doing the talking. She confessed she had no idea whether it was PK's idea or if he was simply going along with the suggestion of his sponsor. I still don't know, she admitted, her voice tinged with disbelief. In this moment, Dorit felt utterly blindsided. Who the have I been married to? She questioned in a raw outburst, her vulnerability cutting through the camera lens. It was clear that the situation caught her off guard in a way she couldn't have predicted, and the weight of it all hung heavily in the air. Protecting PK, a new perspective on marriage. As the conversation unfolded, Dorit's emotions began to unravel, and she shared a deeper reflection on her marriage with PK. For years, she had been protective of him, especially in the public eye. Despite their struggles, Dorit had always shielded PK from any negative judgment, even from her own parents. She never wanted them to think poorly of him, she explained. Her commitment to preserving their image and her relationship with him had been a driving force in her life for a long time. Yet, as she sat with Boz, Dorit found herself at a crossroads. The trust she had placed in her husband seemed shattered. As Boz delicately pointed out how disheartening it must be to defend someone for so long only to find out they were part of a decision made without her involvement, Dorit couldn't help but acknowledge the pain. The realization was almost too much to bear. I always felt like I was fighting for our marriage, Dorit confessed. But to hear his sponsor suggest something like this, it made me question everything. Boz, who had been listening intently, shared her own thoughts on the situation. Girl, with all due respect, she said, her voice firm but empathetic, his sponsor is supposed to advise him on his sobriety. I get that. But marriage is sacred. You don't just enter someone's marriage and tell them what to do. That's crossing a line. Dorit nodded, grateful for Boz's perspective, but still grappling with the emotions of the moment. She explained that PK's sponsor had been an integral part of his sobriety journey, and she had been grateful for the help he'd offered her husband. Still, that didn't excuse what felt like a blatant intrusion into the heart of her personal life. A pattern of separation, the final straw. Dorit didn't shy away from acknowledging that this wasn't the first time the idea of separation had been brought up between her and PK. In fact, it had been a recurring topic in their conversations, thrown around casually like a word that had lost its power. It was the 700th time it was said, she shared with a sigh, frustration evident in her tone. It had become something that was said so easily, so quickly that it didn't hold any real weight. But when it was serious, it was like a punch to the gut. For Dorit, the turning point came when the decision to separate suddenly became real. There was no longer any ambiguity. She was left reeling, wondering how something so monumental could happen so quickly without her being part of the decision-making process. The suddenness of it all felt like a betrayal. It's a huge decision, Dorit explained. There are children involved. It would have been nice to have been included. The weight of the moment was clear. Dorit's love for PK was undeniable, but her emotional well-being was now at the forefront of her thoughts. She needed to find herself again. She needed to make sense of the choices that had been made for her, and she needed to take control of her own future. The impact on their family, a tough decision for the children. When Dorit and PK publicly announced their separation in May 2024, the statement they issued was carefully worded, aimed at protecting their children and their privacy during a difficult time. The couple acknowledged their ongoing struggles, but emphasized their mutual love for one another and for their two children, whom they wanted to prioritize above all else.